Hello, curious minds. Today we are taking a trip into the cosmos to explore a question that's been on my mind for a while. Why is our galaxy called the Milky Way? It's one of those names you hear all the time, but when you think about it, the name is kind of weird, right? What does milk have to do with stars, planets, and black holes? Well, as it turns out, the story behind the name Milky Way is packed with mythology, ancient stargazing, and even some science. So let's dive in and explore the origin of one of the most iconic names in astronomy. Before we get into the science, let's start with the fun part: myths and legends. People have been staring up at the stars and making up stories about the night sky for thousands of years, and the Milky Way is no exception. Many ancient cultures had their own interpretations of this cloudy band of light stretching across the sky. One of the most famous myths comes from Greek mythology. According to the legend, the Milky Way was created by the goddess Hera. The story goes that Heracles, the Roman Hercules, was the illegitimate son of Zeus and a mortal woman. To make Heracles immortal, Zeus had him secretly nursed from Hera while she was asleep. When Hera woke up and realized what was happening, she angrily pushed Heracles away, and her breast milk sprayed across the sky, creating the Milky Way. So, in Greek mythology, our galaxy is literally a trail of divine milk. But the Greeks weren't the only ones with stories about the Milky Way. The Romans adopted the Greek myth, but they also called the galaxy Via Lactea, which translates to Milky Road or Milky Way, hence the name we use today. Other cultures had their own interpretations as well. In ancient Norse mythology, the Milky Way was known as Bifrost, a magical bridge connecting the realm of gods, Asgard, to Earth. Meanwhile, in Hindu mythology, it was sometimes seen as a river of light, symbolizing the Ganges flowing through the heavens. And in Native American traditions, some tribes believed the Milky Way represented the path of departed souls, or even a river of stars. It's amazing to think that no matter where people were in the world, they looked up at the same sky and wove different tales to explain this mysterious milky band of light. Now, let's get into the scientific history. The term Milky Way has its roots in ancient Greek and Latin, but it wasn't until much later that the true nature of the Milky Way was understood. You see, in ancient times, people didn't know the Milky Way was a galaxy. To them, it was just a faint, cloudy band of light stretching across the sky. The Greek called it Galaxias Kyklos, meaning the Milky Circle, and the Romans translated that into Latin as Via Lactea, the name that would eventually evolve into the Milky Way. Fast forward to the 17th century, and things start getting interesting. That is when Galileo Galilei, yes, the telescope guy, pointed one of his early telescopes at the Milky Way and made a groundbreaking discovery. Galileo was the first to realize that the Milky Way wasn't just a band of light, but actually composed of countless individual stars, too faint to be seen with the naked eye. This discovery was a major step forward in our understanding of the universe. Later, in the 18th century, astronomer William Herschel created the first map of the Milky Way's shape, figuring out that we are inside a flat, disc-shaped system of stars. But it wasn't until the 1920s that we finally understood the true scale of the Milky Way. That is when astronomer Edwin Hubble, the guy the space telescope is named after, discovered that the Milky Way was just one of many galaxies in the universe. This was a huge revelation. Suddenly, we realized our galaxy was just a tiny part of a much larger cosmic landscape. Okay, now that we know how the Milky Way got its name and how our understanding of it evolved, let's address the obvious question. Why does the Milky Way look milky? The milky appearance of the Milky Way comes from the fact that we are seeing a massive concentration of stars packed into a relatively small area of the night sky. From the Earth, the light from billions of these stars blends together into a faint, cloudy glow. And since our solar system is located within one of the Milky Way spiral arms, when we look at the galaxy, we are seeing it edge on, which makes the stars appear as a band across the sky. The brightest part of the Milky Way, known as the galactic bulge, is in the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, where the density of stars is highest. If you are lucky enough to be in a place with very little light pollution, like a rural area or the desert, you can see this band of light stretching across the sky, just like people did thousands of years ago. The Milky Way is part of a group of galaxies called the Local Group, which also includes our nearest galactic neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. Fun fact: in about 4.5 billion years, the Milky Way and Andromeda are expected to collide in a slow motion cosmic crash. But don't worry, you don't need to add that to your midnight worry list just yet. Our galaxy is also home to over 100 billion stars, along with nebulae, black holes, and star clusters. It is about 100,000 light years in diameter, and our solar system is located about 20,007 light years from the galactic center. Despite all that, we are just one of billions of galaxies in the universe. Mind blowing, right? So there you have it. The story of why the Milky Way is called the Milky Way. From ancient myths about spilled milk from the gods to scientific discoveries that reshaped our understanding of the universe, this name has been with us for centuries. And while we know the Milky Way is a sprawling galaxy filled with stars, planets, and mysteries, the name still connects us to the generation of stargazers who looked up at the sky and tried to make sense of what they saw. Thank you for joining me on this little cosmic journey through time and space. If you have ever wondered about anything else in the night sky, or if you've got a midnight question of your own, let me know in the comments and we'll explore it together. Until next time, keep looking up and stay curious. I am Mari and this is Midnight Question.